And we are live. Hello, everybody. So I'm so looking forward to this session. And as promised, you asked me about composition. So it's not going to be a very easy topic to talk about. What I'm going to do, though, is give you an introduction to the art of composition. This is a complex thing to do. And what we are going to do first is we are going to look at some paintings from the past and see which were some of the most frequent strategies that were used by artists back then. Okay, do you agree? So, as always, start by writing down where you come from, who is watching this video, which university, if any, and country. So I'm looking forward to receiving your comments, and thank you for the first like. This helps to spread the video. Hello Raji, good to see you as well. So this is going to be a short introduction to the art of composition. Composition is a field of study that you could spend literally months just focused on learning different strategies. We are going to make sure that we're starting simple, okay? So some of the very first examples that I brought to show you are going to be things like this, for example. Let me... So this is a painting. It's called The Raft of the Medusa by Géricault. And it's a painting that literally creates a kind of a double triangle. Okay, let me do one thing. I'm going to zoom out a bit more so you can see more clearly what I'm talking about. And if you look at this image, what you will find in here is a double triangle. So the groups of people, that's the way they're shaped, it literally creates two pyramids. And these two pyramids are the dynamic force behind this composition. So when you have a group of people and you want to create some kind of coherence, so if you don't want it to be just pure chaos, usually you have to shape them in a certain direction, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you from close up roughly what is being done in terms of composition. The first one, the first triangle, obviously, it's going to be the one generated by the sail coming down. You see the strings on both sides. This is a triangle. But then there's a sub-triangle also being generated by the people themselves. So you have a kind of leaning. You have a kind of a pointing back and forth that creates geometric shapes. And the advantage of these geometric shapes is that they position the painting, they give an axis, they give a kind of a core which transcends just a momentary action. Do you understand? It makes the image more eternal. It makes the image more, what would that word be? More iconic, perhaps. So you've got two pyramids that are caused by two groups of people. Can you see them? So please write down on the comments below, because I'm very curious to know your opinion about all these things that we will be talking about today. Write down if you can see the double pyramid effect, okay? Something else that I want you to realize is that all the zigs and all the zags caused by this kind of compositions, they are dynamic, they create a flow. In order for you to see them better, squint your eyes so that the image becomes very dark and very blurry. And then it becomes easier for you to see the grouping of the people, to see the grouping of the objects. Notice also that this double triangle, the double pyramid, it's like the two pyramids, the two bigger ones in Egypt. So the raft of the Medusa, the two pyramids contrast with the horizontal in the end. So when you look at the horizon, you have an horizontal line, and that horizontal line contrasts with the waves that are approaching. So it's actually quite amazing that you have this kind of playfulness, you have this kind of game. So in the art of composition, you play with many different devices, and this is full of triangles. Raji, very well, congratulations. Raji said I can see a third triangle, sort of, on which the people are placed. Yes, there is actually more than one, more than two, more than three triangles. Even the legs, for example, of some of the dead people, they generate triangles, the way they're positioned. You have many triangles, and if you start looking at this composition, the amount of triangles is just mind-blowing. So this is an example of a painting that lives a lot based on triangle. Now, because this is a lesson for fine art students, let's talk just very briefly about technique. Although it's a lovely painting, it's a really nice painting. It represents a real event, by the way, that shocked France. There was a group of people that got stranded in the sea, and they were, for many days, they were just in the middle of the sea. It was a disaster, and even cannibalism took place. So Géricault decides to paint the drama that those people experienced in the middle of the sea, without food, without anything. But the next image I'm going to show you, it's a product that used to be very frequent in the 19th century, and it's called bitumen. And bitumen, the problem with this kind of products, such as tar or bitumen, is that they create a beautiful brown color that was used for the shadows. I mean, it's really stunning. Bitumen is one of the most beautiful colors that you can use in oil painting. But what's the problem with bitumen? Perhaps you want to write it down. Write on the comments below, what is the problem of painting with bitumen or with tar in oil paintings? So this was very used material in the 19th century, and yet I am not advocating for its use. I am actually saying that it's very problematic. Now, while we wait for your comments, I want to read what Fatima said. And Fatima said something amazing. So get ready. And Fatima said that several similar shapes reinforce the composition. Bravo. Absolutely bravo, Fatima. So in the art of composition, usually what you want is some kind of order, some kind of repetition. You already saw from my previous lesson last week that I am very doubtful about all those explanations, such as the golden mean, the Fibonacci number. I'm quite skeptical about those things. But I want to tell you that in despite of me being skeptical about those things, it is true that geometry was widely used in ancient paintings, especially in the very old historical paintings. So yes, regardless of the choice that you make in terms of shape, it can be triangles, as we saw before. What usually you want is some kind of order, some kind of structure to prevent the chaos of being born in a painting, because chaos is easily created. When was the triangle trick used as a device? When was it used the most as a compositional device? Which period? Write down on the comments below. I want to know what was the artistic style that used triangles the most to create balance and structure on a composition. Now the next image I will show you, it's the problem of using bitumen. This is a detail from the raft of the Medusa, the painting you've seen before. And you can probably see, I'm going to zoom in slightly, that the shadows, the darks, are cracked. They are cracked. So the problem of using bitumen is that it tends to dry. Well, it's a bit complicated because Mario said something amazing. The heat melts bitumen. Yes, it is. But the problem is that not only bitumen sometimes becomes soft under certain weather conditions, and then it hardens again under different weather conditions, it cracks really badly. And very few artists were able to use bitumen with some degree of success. One of them was Bouguereau. Surprisingly, Bouguereau used a lot of bitumen in his paintings, but the paintings did not crack very badly. So yeah, back to the lovely bitumen, do not use it, okay? When you want to paint, try to paint always with time-proven art materials. Bitumen is not one of them. Now that we've seen the raft of the Medusa and the use of triangles, I want to show you a different device. And I want you to notice that the compositions that we're going to look at next are radically different to the raft of the Medusa. The use of triangles was very popular. I still don't have an answer from you guys. Let me know which was the artistic style that used. Okay, I'm gonna make a question to the group. And the question is, what was the artistic style that used triangles the most in order to create balance on a composition? This is the question which I would love you to answer. The next image I want to show you, it's an amazing book written by Solomon J. Solomon, and it is a book that is called The Practice of Oil Painting and of Drawing as associated with it. It's a book that I recommend that everybody should read. It was written in the 19th century, of course, like most good things about the art of painting. And the writer was a fantastic painter. This is now a self-portrait by Solomon J. Solomon. And in this self-portrait, you can see some of the... Do you remember when I spoke about tonal compression last week and the week before? I always say you must compress the colors. So you must make all your lights very similar and all your shadows very similar. So no wonder Solomon Joseph Solomon did exactly that on his self-portrait. I mean, just look at that hand. The compression of tones in the light is quite amazing. Like almost all the fingers have the same degree of lightness in the light, which is also very similar to the lightness of the skin on the face. So I want you to look at all the compression of tones on the fabric, how the gray is so similar, almost flat, on different parts of the suit. So the compression of tones creates great harmony on any art piece. And composition is just another way of also creating harmony and of creating balance. The way you use color can also play a role if you're going to have harmony or not. Understood? So, meanwhile, I'm going to read some of the comments that I asked before. And aha, there is only one answer that is correct. Bishal, the Renaissance. Renaissance used triangles the most to create balance on a painting. And Raji, it is indeed a kind of a sacred geometry, but sacred geometry applies to all great civilizations, and not all of them have used triangles that much. So, Shuchi, you're not far. Okay, you get half an applause. You are not far, because neoclassicism is just a reinvention, it's just a reheating of the Renaissance, but it was indeed the Renaissance period that used triangles the most. Rob, the Flemish period is indeed the late medieval period, early Renaissance. So you also get an applause, because the Flemish period is early Renaissance, and they did use triangles a lot indeed, which we are going to look into it in a second. And finally, Mario, the Egyptian pyramids, yes. They used triangles for architecture, but indeed they did not use it for painting, not that much. That's more of a Renaissance strategy. The next painting is by Solomon J. Solomon, the very same artist that you saw before. And what kind of composition is he using? What kind of shape predominates in this kind of image? So write it down on the comments below, because I really want to hear your opinion. And in order to see the shapes and composition, there is a trick you must always do, and I'm going to do it now for you. Look at the painting from far away and tell me, which geometric shape do you start seeing? To understand composition, it's always a very good idea to step back far away from a painting. Let's go even further. What geometric shape do you see in there? And I'm going to bring it back to its glory. Let me zoom in a bit more, so we almost get rid of the frame. And indeed, it is a kind of an egg of an oval. It's not exactly a spiral. A spiral would have a different shape, although you could claim it's a kind of a spiral as well. Okay, but it's more of an egg shape. It's definitely an egg. And what you see in this painting is that the lady on the right, she is shaped like a curve, like a parenthesis. Her arm is touching. Let me see if I can show you close up, because with this application I usually cannot go very near, unfortunately. So I'm going to crop out the image so we don't get distracted. Look at the lady on the right, and her body is a curve in itself. Her arm connects to the arm of the soldier at the back, which are pulling the ropes that are holding Samson. You know the biblical story of Samson and Delilah. The lady on the right, she is Delilah. So she is the one who betrayed Samson. And she's very seductive, as you can see. She's painted in a marvelous way. But Samson is trapped in the middle with ropes. He cannot escape. He was the strongest man in the world. But because his hair was cut, he lost his power, according to the biblical story. And then the curve carries on through the back. Let's get rid of the rest of the image. Through the back of that man with the red hat, with the red turban. And the curve eventually, you can imagine it, resuming again and going back to Delilah. It's practically an egg shape. But inside the egg, what else do you find? It's not just an egg. So the egg is what we see from really far away. But what about the men themselves? Look how twisted they were in order to fit some kind of order, some kind of shape. And Anna, you replied beautifully. Anna replied the letter A. A for Anna. So when you look just at the men in the middle, if you ignore the rest of the composition, they create a kind of a triangle. It's a triangle again, but with rounded sides. It's not a triangle made with straight lines. They're quite rounded because it's the human body as well. And this triangle also creates a circle. So the two men that are holding Samson, if you look just at the two men, they practically create a circle, or a sphere if you prefer. So there's really beautiful use of geometric shapes in this kind of historical paintings. And let me be quite clear about something, and I know I'm going to sound perhaps a bit fanatic, but I'm going to be quite clear about something. The art of composition nowadays is dead. So what we do with contemporary art is that we improvise as we go along. As in the past, compositions were planned. And not only they were planned, they had a symbolic meaning. They had, like Raji mentioned before, there was a sacred geometry. And that was transversal to the whole of humanity. Different civilizations had different meanings, that is true. But the idea of sacred geometry used to be universal. Nowadays, with contemporary art, we don't really have the art of composition anymore as it used to be studied in the past. No, now it's more what looks good. So that means you move things around until you like the way they were assembled. But this is not the way historical paintings were made. This is actually quite alien to the way paintings used to be constructed for many centuries. You had pre-planning and you had sacred geometry. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that before we move on with the lesson. So, an amazing composition by Joseph Solomon. The use of geometry, the use of shapes, the egg, the triangle, the circle, the letter A, it's quite something. And I want you to notice a small detail at the very back. I want you to see, and I'm going to zoom in as much as I possibly can, but I want you to see that the vertical of the door, it's not vertical. And because it's not vertical, and I'm not allowed to zoom in anymore, the app doesn't let me, but I'm going to get rid of the rest of the painting so we don't get distracted. If you look at the vertical of the door on the left hand side, it's a diagonal. And that also helps to create tension. So usually, if you want to create tension, you work more with diagonals and you avoid absolute horizontals or absolute verticals. Why? Because absolute horizontals and absolute verticals create what? Please write it down on the question on the chat box below. I'm going to ask the question again. Absolute horizontals and absolute verticals create which feeling? That is the question. Now let's go 300 years before, and let's look at Michelangelo, the Sistine Chapel. Now that your eye has been already kind of informed, I want you to see, first of all, if you can see the oval. And I know it's not an exact oval, but I want to show you that even Michelangelo was notoriously clustering all people together around the figure of God. And this kind of clustering of shapes, let me see if I can zoom in, because I really want to show you. No, I can't. So again, I'm going to get rid of the rest of the painting so we do not get distracted. So there is a very strong kind of oval composition. It looks almost like a fish, doesn't it? Like a moonfish. And you have God. By the way, this is one of the very rare representations of God in Christianity. Because Christianity is just like Judaism or Islam. God has no shape. So God is shapeless. And definitely, even if God had a shape, it wouldn't be a human shape. But sometimes in painting, in order to make things more understandable, very, very, very rarely artists have represented God. In this case, it's with a human shape. So let's look again at the image from very far away. What kind of shapes can you see? What kind of organization did Michelangelo use to create order in this chaotic world? And meanwhile, I'm going to read some of the comments because they're beautiful. So the answer, Rob answered that perfect horizontals and perfect verticals create a feeling of stagnation. And this is true. So when an image is totally ordained, when it's totally organized, it can easily look dead. But it also creates another feeling. It creates a feeling of stability. So sometimes perfect horizontals and perfect verticals are extremely useful in composition. You can use them to create stability. And stability was one of the hallmarks of several civilizations. If you look at Byzantine art, especially imperial art, that represents, the emperor, the empress, the noble people, the clergy, you're going to see usually a lot of verticals. So people are standing straight. They're not hunchbacks, because that creates a totally different feeling. Do you understand what I'm trying to tell you? Is that the way you are shaped creates an emotion. And what we do instead is we use geometry to express certain meanings, and total vertical is more powerful than an apologetic curve, a bending. So maybe we took this from the biological world, that I don't know, or maybe it's the other way around. It's a kind of a universal feeling, but I want you to think about it, okay? I want you to think that shapes create feelings. So Rob also said that the way God is positioned, looks like half, like the middle, the section of a human brain. Absolutely. That looks like a brain. This could be considered, if you want, poetically, it's a very beautiful meaning. It could be divine intelligence creating mankind's humanity. So yes, I love that idea of the brain. So Mari also says that God is inside an oval. Absolutely. Oval brain. But you still didn't tell me more devices that Michelangelo used. Come on, everyone. Comment on the chat. Not just 2 or 3 people. I would like you to really tell me more tricks that Michelangelo used. For example, what about the very, very diagonal mountain behind Adam that more or less echoes the direction of Adam? So reinforces Adam's position. What about the fact that Adam is curved? And because he is curved, his head is looking back to God. So we can imagine that the curve carries on back to that brain that we were talking about. So there is a kind of a double oval. You've got the oval of that red kind of human brain shape, or moonfish. But then you also have a much bigger ellipse, a much bigger oval that also encompasses the body of Adam. And you imagine that it goes back because Adam is looking back to God. So that creates a line, an imaginary line that connects the two. This is amazing. And you've got many more tricks, of course. Look at the triangle. Actually, I'm not going to tell you. Tell me, where is the triangle? Where is the triangle? Everybody, we already saw triangles before. And we have some triangles here as well. I would like you all to write it down. Where do you see triangles? And a very, very important one. Very important one. How their arms connect. Nobody mentioned that. It's one of the most powerful compositions ever in human history. Yes, Fatima mentioned it. I'm just now reading the comments. And Fatima says that the two figures connect not only via the gaze of Adam, but also through the arms. Fatinha. And then Rob replies that I'm going to ask you all, please write full sentences. Give me the context to your answer, because I only receive your answers roughly 1 or 2 minutes after I'm doing the live stream, because there is a delay. YouTube delays considerably. So when I say, I only start getting answers roughly 1 minute later. So in order for me to remember which question you are answering to, write full sentences. So Raji, Timney says behind the man. Timney, what do you mean by behind the man? Which was the question? I can't remember. Please write a full sentence. Rob replied that the leg creates a triangle. Well done. So Adam's leg, the bent leg, is triangular. And then Raji says Adam's arm and leg. It's a kind of a triangle too, with more or less a rounded corner. But yes, one could claim it's also a triangle. And Priyan says the triangle is behind Adam. Yes, well, yes. I mean, there are so many triangles, really. I want you all to tell me at least 5 or 6, okay? So Canon says the left leg of Adam, absolutely, because it's bent. It creates a triangle. And between the arm and the leg, more or less, it's not exactly a triangle. But there's more. Give me more triangles. Let's zoom out. I think we are all getting very finicky and looking at the small shapes. Let's look at the big shapes. Please tell me a big shape that is more or less triangular in itself. I'm going to give you a hint. Look at the white, or the pink if you prefer. And Mario said something amazing, which is God looks dynamic and Adam looks lazy. That's right. This is the moment where God is giving life to Adam. So Adam is just waking up from his stupor, from his torpor. This is the moment when Adam is gradually becoming alive. So he just woke up from his eternal sleep. Look at the shape of God himself. That's a triangle. If you look at the legs of God, the white clothes, and then the arm of God, it creates a triangle inside the red circle, the red oval. Okay? It's quite amazing. You've got God himself represented as a triangle, which makes sense because in Christianity you have the Holy Trinity. So God is one, but it's also three. Three, but one. So yes, there is a triangular feel to the whole body of God when you look from far away. Okay, you have to look from far away. Now I'm going to show you a very cute painting that was done when Michelangelo was about 11 years old. This is the first known painting by Michelangelo. Oh, before that, Fatinha just asked if there is an inverted triangle in the sky. Yeah, kind of. It's the thing is, you know, the English have a saying which goes something like this: if you're holding a hammer, everything becomes a nail. I love that saying, because now that we're searching for triangles, we're going to find more and more and more and more. Some were intended by Michelangelo, others were not. So it's going to be... but yes, absolutely, I do see a triangle in the sky as well, an inverted triangle. Now let me show you the cute painting when Michelangelo was 11 years old. Oh, one more comment. Dipanjali. So I feel that the upper body and left leg form something quite like a triangle. Absolutely. So the leg and then the arm of Adam creates a triangular shape, connecting to the other hand. So there is a triangular shape. Okay, enough of triangles. Let me show you the cute painting. I promise something really cute, really sweet. Little Michelangelo was 11 years old when he painted this. And this is the earliest painting by Michelangelo that we are aware of. And it's quite something. I want you now to write all the compositional devices that Michelangelo used for this cute painting. I'm being ironic. It's not cute at all. It's actually several demons. And the demons are tempting Saint Anthony. So here we go, and you can see hell. I particularly like, I think it's really humoristic. I particularly like the fact that there is a face. Look at the ass of the demon on the right. So again, let's get rid of the rest of the painting so we don't get distracted. If you look at this demon on the right hand side, and if you look at the ass of the demon, there is another face there. There is another demon. I find it hilarious. As it was typical of a lot of late medieval painting, early Renaissance painting, but especially the late medieval, there used to be a lot of humor. You see that frequently in medieval art. Now tell me all the compositional devices that you see in this painting, and I'm going to slowly scroll up so you can see all the different parts of the painting, okay? And tell me everything that you see so far. Do you see triangles? Do you see ovals? Do you see shapes connecting to other shapes, like the arm of God connecting to the arm of Adam? So do you see interlinked shapes, either really interlinked or visually interlinked? Tell me more. More tricks. Any horizontals? Any verticals? I want to know everything that little Michelangelo did when he was planning this painting. And I need your help for that. As usual, we're going to see it from really far away. And when we see it from really far away, which are the elements that stand out the most? Do you see horizontals? Do you see verticals, like we discussed on the painting by Solomon, Joseph Solomon? And if so, are they really horizontal? Do they give a sense of stability? Or is the horizontal slightly warped? So it's a bit more dynamic. Tell me all. Tell me all. And meanwhile, please, I would like everybody that is watching the video to click immediately like. This will help the algorithm to propel this kind of lectures instead of another conspiracy theory on YouTube. So we are starting to get answers. Fatinha, Rob, Priyan, they all mention circles and ovals indeed. Like an egg or a circle. Absolutely. So Michelangelo is already using a compositional device. The demons that surround the figure of Saint Anthony of the desert in Egypt, the demons that are tormenting the saint, they are not grouped randomly. They create some kind of structure. So where else do you see little tricks? Where do you see, for example, triangles? Where do you see interlinked elements? Write it down. I'm going to zoom in. It's very cute, isn't it? Although it's so monstrous. Let's look into their facial expressions. It always makes me laugh when I look at these kind of paintings. Actually, you can see that Saint Anthony is very patient. He looks mildly annoyed, but he's not despairing. He hasn't lost it. You know, he's still very, very... He can still keep his poise. Let's look at the facial expressions of the demons. And I get some comments that, for example, the rocks represent verticality, like the saint. Yes, there is an element of verticality, which again makes the image very noble. It makes the image very hieratic, very monarchic. very, like I was saying before, it makes it somewhat eternal. And definitely, the bottom rock on the left, the big one, is a triangle. Of course it has rounded corners and so on, because this is a figurative painting, but it's definitely triangular in shape. So I am going to... Yes, absolutely, Fatima. The irregular shapes of the demons are interlinked. And Mario also replied that there is a near horizontal in the horizon. And because it's just near horizontal, it's not totally horizontal, then it's a bit more dynamic. There is a bit more movement. And you feel that the demons are flying and that the whole landscape is kind of moving together with the flight of the demons. Priyan says that he looks bored, Saint Anthony. Yes, he looks very bored. He can still keep a poise though. You know, he's not screaming, he's not crying, he's not shaking. He's very noble somehow, but yes, bored, like many noble people are. And this is what an 11-year-old was painting in Renaissance times. The earliest painting by Michelangelo. The next painting is by Bellini, Giovanni Bellini, and it's again roughly the same time period, because this is also Renaissance. And what did I tell you before? What did I tell you? What was the artistic style that used triangles very frequently in order to give a feeling of order, of stability? Let me know the answer. You already told me before, but now I want to see 16 or 17 people giving me the correct answer, not the incorrect one. So, look at this painting, and it's definitely a triangle. And I want to make a little comment, which is about these hilarious portraits of the period. I don't think Renaissance mothers were very warm as mothers. So usually, if you look at ancient art, old paintings tend to represent babies like really, 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 really bored, or asleep, or dead, or abandoned. And very rarely babies are seen being hugged. It's quite spectacular how motherhood as a cultural concept has evolved in different parts of the planet and in different periods in history. So we tend to assume that motherhood is just a biological process. So the same way that animals, for example, look after their children, their babies, their cubs, their chicks, their little things, you know, the birds, the little fish. Well, fish don't. They're little spiders. Well, spiders don't either, I guess. Many animals actually start eating their babies as soon as the babies are born. But in the mammal kingdom, in the animal kingdom, mammals tend to be warm towards their babies. And humans as well. But it is true that in different cultures you have a very widely distinct way of treating children that goes from tenderness to outright abuse. You've got all kinds of variety in the way humans treat babies. Because we are cultural animals, we are heavily influenced by our culture. We are not just biology, okay? So it's not just instinct. No, not at all. And I think medieval mothers were a bit harsh, perhaps. Notoriously, the Virgin Mary is probably more busy praying than looking after the baby. Uh, very easily, Jesus could fall off her lap with a minor movement. And yes, we are getting lots of answers which are all correct. You all said Renaissance. And indeed, the Renaissance has got a strong use of triangles. But now I've got a question for you. And the question is, are the triangles stable because they are triangles? Or are they stable because the base of the triangle is horizontal? So the question is, if you put a triangle but it's tilting, it's just on top of one of the corners, do you still get stability? Yes or no? This is the question. Please write it down. I'm very curious to know your answers. Now, I want to show you the next image, which is an illustration by Dean Cornwall, one of my favorite illustrators. He's from the golden age of American illustration, you know. So usually when we talk about the golden age of illustration, we're talking the 1940s, the 1950s, this kind of time frame. All these artists that did illustration, they were classically trained, all of them. So you got this really, really amazing sense of like rotten peace. Do you know that expression? It's a Portuguese saying, paz podre. And if you translate it directly into English, it means rotten peace. What does that mean? It means that they are at peace. It looks like there's nothing really violent taking place, but yet you feel that there's something in the air. Something could easily go terribly wrong in the next few seconds. There is a feeling of suspense. Nowhere you see aggression, nowhere you see violence, and nevertheless you know that there's something wrong about to happen. And I adore the way these images were painted. I love the brush strokes. I love the negative empty spaces. I really, really like Dean Cornwall. I think he was a very, very good artist. And as always, in order to judge composition, what do? We need to step back. So let's look at this painting from far away. And when you look at it from far away, which are the shapes that jump out at you? I want to know all the tricks that Dean Cornwall used and that you can detect so far. So write it down. And meanwhile, Priyan replied, and so did Canon, and so did Rob. So applause for all of you. The triangle is only stable because the base of the triangle is perfectly horizontal. Yes. This only works because the triangle has got an horizontal base. If the blue dress of the Virgin Mary was tilted, suddenly you wouldn't have stability anymore. You would have actually the opposite of that. You would have instability. Okay? Very, very good answers. Let's go back to our Dean Cornwall. All the tricks that he has used. Let's begin with some obvious ones. So Priyan says that there is a triangle on the left and a triangle on the right. Absolutely. So if you look at the cowboys on the left, it looks like the letter A. I'm going to zoom out even more so you can see it even more clearly. There is notoriously a pyramid, a triangle on the left, and another triangle on the right. So 2 triangles we already saw. And the figures in the foreground have similar mirror shapes, says Fatima. Congratulations. You are both correct. There is some kind of echo between left and right. There is some kind of repetition of the same shapes, of the same structure. But as with a real echo, the echo is never equally the same as the voice that created it. No, the echo comes back distorted. So it's exactly the same in this painting. There is a repetition, but they're not absolutely symmetrical. Because if they were absolutely symmetrical, that would give a feeling of stability. Now, Canon also said that the painting is an oval. Absolutely. All the figures create a giant oval with one diagonal coming down. So if you look sideways, if you turn your head like this, I'm going to show you now. If you look sideways, if you turn your head sideways like this or like that, that means you can judge the image more accurately. And now let's look at it. I would like you to turn your head sideways and you will see the number 6. The diagonal, maybe it's possible to... No, it's not possible to rotate. I wish I could rotate the image. I can just move it up and down. It doesn't matter. You can definitely see the number 6. Now, it's no accident that shapes need to connect, like they did in Michelangelo's painting of God creating Adam. The arm connects with the arm, right? Shapes need to connect in order for you to have a powerful composition. And from far away, that's how you can see the connection way better. I'm going to move to another painting, which I adore. I love this composition. It's the deposition of Christ. So Christ is now dead and is being going to be buried by Titian, or Tiziano in Italian. If you look at the composition again, you have a very, very powerful organizing principle. I want you to tell me which one it is. As always, we are going to look from far away. And there is nothing so evident as the egg. And again, not just an egg, and it's not any egg. We will talk at that in a bit. But it's no coincidence that even the blue of the sky kind of projects the blue of the mantle of the Virgin Mary. You see, the Virgin Mary on the left, she creates a curve of blue. And then the blue of the sky prolongs that very same curve. And visually, it's very effective. Because visually, when you see it from far away, it helps to design the egg shape. It's absolutely beautiful. In terms of composition, this is stunning. And like we saw before with the painting by Dean Cornwall, there is also a diagonal next to the egg. The background, like Rob said, is an inverted L shape. Absolutely. It's a capital L, but it's inverted. So the brown of the trees and the brown of the floor create a kind of an L shape, a backwards L. So Rob, this was an amazing comment that you wrote. Very clever. You deserve a triple applause. 1, 2, and finally the triple applause. And Fatinha talks about the parallelogram in the set of figures. Beautiful comment as well. Fatima, I'm going to give you also triple applause, but for the sake of the lesson, I'll play it just once, okay? So I'm going to zoom in again for you to see more. Which other tricks can you find in the image, especially now that we zoomed in? So which other shapes can you see? And I'm going meanwhile to zoom even more just for us to contemplate the beauty of the painting. It's a truly stunning painting. And notice the beautiful contrasts between sharp edges and lost edges. Sometimes the edges are so sharp, like the black fabric against the background. It's really, really, really crisp. Or some parts of the blue mantle of the Virgin Mary, very sharp against the background. But in other times, the edges are lost. Especially in the shadows, they tend to look a bit softer and a bit more blended. More compositional devices, let me know. I want to see a triangle, for example. Tell me where you can see. Aha! Very good. So the two people on the left, they create a triangle. Absolutely. And again, I'm going to remove everyone else so we don't get distracted. And if you look at the shape of the two people on the left, I'm going to remove most of the image. They generate a triangle indeed. Well done, Rob. But more, look at the legs of Jesus. It's quite amazing. So the legs of Jesus, the knees, the fabric, if you squint, it's definitely a triangular shape as well. It's a very, very, very beautiful painting in terms of composition. And as it was typical at that time, classical painters, they were masters of composition. They really knew what they were doing in terms of the organization of the shapes. And yes, the white itself, Mario, also creates a triangle. The white fabric. That brings me to the next painting, which is the one I already showed you last week. Another deposition of the cross, where again you have the egg shape surrounding the body of Jesus. Let's step back so we can see the shapes from a distance. Look how the oval is so noticeable once you zoom out. It's actually incredible, absolutely beautiful. Now, there is another compositional device that van der Weyden used for this deposition, from this descent from the cross. And I want to mention it very quickly. I'm going to zoom in. And notice that the body of Christ, the position of the body of Christ, is shaped exactly the same as the body language of the Virgin Mary. They have the same shape. They are again like an echo, 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 same body language. The difference is that the head of the Virgin Mary is vertical as the head of Jesus dropped because he's dead. But the Virgin Mary has fainted by seeing her son dead coming down from the cross. It's absolutely beautiful how the echo of the two body languages create so much harmony. And did you know that this painting was created for the Archers Guild? So the archers, they have a bow and an arrow. And look at the body of Jesus. He's shaped just like a bow and arrow that is being tensed up in order to shoot. The arms of Jesus are the curve of the curved bow. It's quite amazing. And the body of Jesus is the arrow. So this was done for the Archers Guild, I repeat. So both Jesus and the Virgin Mary, they look like an arched bow. It's so beautiful, this painting. I really want you to understand that composition is a very complex art in itself. And of course, in music, you have composition with every single note that you do. In painting is not so much like that. And I don't want to talk too much about this painting because we already mentioned a few things last week. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you now some 20th century art. And now this is quite something. The dynamic shapes that are represented, this painting by George Bellows, that shows the two boxers. Look how dynamic, look how alive, look how full of movement this painting is. And I want you to tell me again all the tricks that George Bellows used in order to create a dynamic composition. Surprisingly, he made his horizontal and the vertical. If he had made the horizontals a little bit more crooked, it would have been even more dynamic. But I don't think he needs it, because he doesn't want the background to be dynamic. He does not want the podium to be dynamic. He wants the fighters to be dynamic. So it was deliberate. The horizontal gives stability to the podium, but it's the fighters that are full of life. And let's zoom in to appreciate the kind of brush strokes, which are very loose. Look how shapes interconnect. The direction of the leg on the left, the gray leg of the fighter on the left, that line shoots all the way up to the arm, the bending arm of the other fighter, that is kind of connected to the head of the I don't know the technical name of the person that is separating them, but it's absolutely stunning in terms of composition. And now we're going to zoom out to look at the main shapes. What are the main shapes that you see immediately when you zoom out? So I really would like you to write down on the text box below, and please tell me which painting you're referring to. I'm getting your answers with 1 or 2 minutes delay. I don't know if you're still talking about the Van der Weyden Descent from the Cross, or if you are already commenting the painting by George Bellows. Please write if it's the boxers you are talking about or if it's the Van der Weyden. Otherwise, I don't know. Always write full sentences, okay? Give me some context. But I see a triangle, indeed. I see a triangle generated by the two legs of the two boxers. From far away, it looks like a letter A. It's really amazing. I absolutely love the composition. So the fighter and the referee, that's the word. Thank you, Raji. I'm not very good at sports, am I? The fighter and the referee generate a triangle, Raji. Congratulations. And Priyan also says that you see a triangle in the neck, especially around the fighters. So the triangle, indeed. And there is also an egg inside, an internal egg shape, which I'm going to zoom in now. The boxers are all made with diagonals, indeed, and curves, lots of movement. And that contrasts with the horizontals and verticals of the background. Well done, Mario. Very good. Now, I'm going to show you a lithograph, also by George Bellows. And notice that how on this drawing the composition reads slightly differently. It has a different dynamic than the painting I've shown you before. They're from the same artist. They are from the same image, the same composition, and yet it reads very differently. Now it feels more like a giant truncated triangle. It's like a pyramid that the top has been cut. Isn't it? It's quite amazing how even the same artist and the same painting create quite different compositions. I'm going now to do one thing, which is the lesson today has to be a bit shorter because I have a deadline. I have multiple things to do still today. But I want to announce one thing before we proceed with the rest of the lesson. Dhaka University, the lessons resumed. So congratulations to the students and the teachers for having survived this difficult long time in Bangladesh. Of course, there was a revolution, as you guys know, and Dhaka University was shut down for a while. And I'm sure that this really disrupted your studies and your lessons. We hope that it's for a very good cause. So what I'm going to do now is, as Dhaka University, the Faculty of Fine Art, Charukola, has resumed the lessons, we will not carry on doing the live streams on Mondays, because now it's not necessary anymore. Now you have the teachers that will be teaching you every day in Charukola. What I will do, nevertheless, I will not abandon you. Occasionally, we will run another special lesson. And every time there is a special lesson, I will announce in advance and I will let everybody know. And then we will do a live stream on specific topics, okay? So I have even some guest lecturers that will be running some lessons for you as well. I will let you know. I promise that this is not the last lesson, but for the time being, we are going to interrupt the live streams on Mondays. Now we have Charukola functioning again. I just wanted to make this announcement before I proceed with the lesson. So the next image is by Anne-Louis Giraudet, one of my favorite paintings at the Louvre. It's called The Sleep of Endymion. And Endymion was considered the most handsome man in the world. So the goddess Moon, she fell in love by Endymion. And she decides to make him eternal, to preserve his beauty. She gave him a sleep, an eternal sleep. And while he was asleep, he wouldn't age. And then by the quiet of the night, this is very cloak and dagger, by the quiet of the night, because the goddess Moon was very shy, she would ask the wind, Zephyrus. So that little angel is not an angel, that little Cupid is actually the wind Zephyrus. And Zephyrus would separate the branches of the laurel tree so that the light of the moon could come and kiss Endymion, because she was in love with Endymion, remember. So a very, very beautiful painting. And let's look at the composition, because as always, composition is key. And let's zoom out. And when you zoom out, tell me all the tricks that you see in this painting. Tell me all the tricks. Now, Rob says, can you do a lesson on how complicated oil paintings are actually made, please? I don't understand how very detailed paintings are made. Are they drawn and painted like paint by numbers? Okay, Rob, this could be a subject of one of the future lessons. So let's try to find then a Monday where we will run the lesson. But let's wait a few weeks, okay? Let's wait a few weeks, because now Charukola students will be extremely busy with their curriculum. And then we're going to run a series of lessons. I still haven't done all the lessons that I promised all the students that I would be doing. So there will be a lesson about street art, for example, murals, There will be a lesson about Orientalism and the relationship between Western artists and Oriental civilizations. And is there the Orient? Is that even a concept that is legit? We're going to have some very fascinating topics to still run some lessons for Charukala students. And yes, I will do one lesson about oil painting technique. And now, thank you, Priyam. I will miss the Monday classes as well. But now it's time for the teachers, the professors in Charukala to teach you. So let's look at the comments on this painting. The Sleep of Endymion, beautiful light, beautiful composition. And both Rob and Canon agree that this is a triangular composition. And Canon says it's a tilted triangle, so it's not indicating stability. Well done, Canon. Beautiful, complete answer. And Priyan also says that it's a triangle near the lower right. Absolutely. The negative shape of the blackness underneath the arm, underneath the armpit of Endymion is a dark pyramid. So there is a triangle indeed. And there is maybe another triangle in the middle. Yes, the negative space. The body of the wind Zephyrus against the body of Endymion, together with the line of light that is coming from the sky, creates a boomerang shape, a dark boomerang shape in the center, which is quite triangular indeed. And yes, and Raji also mentions that the ray of light connects with the people. There is an oval shape as well on the top, which is the sky. The sky is oval, pretty much. And the triangle formed the two people and the ray of light. Now, nobody still mentioned how important it is, the interlinking. So the ray of light is pretty much extending the shape of the arm of Endymion. It's on the same angle practically. And these things are usually about practically, okay? It doesn't have to be exactly. But if visually you feel that the ray of light is an extension of the arm of Endymion, then there is immediately an interlinking. You see, the extended arm of Endymion makes a diagonal that is pointing towards heaven, towards sky. The ray of light is a continuation of that line as well. Really, really, really nice painting at the Louvre Museum. Let's just contemplate the beauty of the light and shadow. How dramatic the contrast between light and shadow. Really, really nice use of light in this painting. So, the next image is by Jules Bastien Lepage, one of my favorite French painters, 19th century, and it represents Joan of Arc. And Joan of Arc, she's going almost like if she was mad, because she starts having visions. And she hears the voice of God telling her to liberate France, to go to war against the English conquerors, the English invaders. So at the back, you have a representation of Christ dressed as a soldier. And Joan of Arc, she's having a vision. Well, not a vision, but she's hearing voices. She's hearing the commands to liberate France. So, it's quite amazing how this composition is also conceived. What I'm going to do is I'm going to center the image, and we are going to zoom out, and let's look at the shapes that stand out the most. Let me know which are the shapes that you can easily identify so far, and let me know if there is any interlinking or not, if there is any continuation or not of some other shape that you see in the background. It's quite an amazing painting again. So now that we've seen it from far away, time to appreciate it from a bit closer together. Look at the beautiful way that the wrists and hands were painted, as well as the eyes. And Priyan even commented that the contrast between the style of Joan of Arc and the background is so beautiful. Absolutely. Joan of Arc, she's quite real. She's quite 3D. As the background is more contemporary art, so to speak. You see more the brush strokes and it's more abstracted somehow. And Rob comments that there is a diagonal horizon. Yes, yes indeed, Rob. If you look at it from far away, the dominant line in the background of the floor is a diagonal indeed. And there is a diagonality to the whole floor. It doesn't feel that the floor is horizontal somehow. It looks somewhat tilted. You know, it's all diagonal. And that gives a feeling of what? You know, it gives a feeling of dynamism, dynamic, unbalance if you want. And Priyan asks, is there a continuation from the house to the arm? Absolutely. The diagonal of the extended arm, sorry, not the one dropping down, but the one that is diagonal, is a continuation of the rooftop of the house. And that forms a triangle in itself. So again, you see the triangular compositional device created by Jules Bastien Lepage. This is a major triangle, a massive triangle. I really love this style of academic paintings from the 19th century because they have so much. There is so much that we could say about this style of art. We could start with anatomy, we could talk composition, we can talk, oh my goodness me, symbolism. There is so much in academic art. I really cannot comprehend or agree. Why was academic art so attacked during the 20th century? It's just pathetic. Really, really beautiful paintings. So we're almost ending today's lesson. I want to show you now compositions that are even more wild. So now we're going to the Baroque period. This is El Greco. And look how unstable and dynamic everything is. There's a great feeling of almost chaos and confusion. And it's a dream world. It's a world that does not look like reality. It's a dream or maybe a nightmare. It's tumultuous, but at the same time it is also serene. Let's look at the painting from far away and do let me know which are the shapes that jump most to you when you look at them from afar. And as always, write full sentences. Let me know if you're talking about the painting by El Greco of Jesus in the garden of the olive trees, or if you're talking about some other painting. But this El Greco painting that I'm now showing to you, look at the circle that looks almost like a womb, like if the people sleeping inside the womb. So the disciples, according to the biblical story, the disciples fell asleep. And as they fell asleep, Jesus was left alone to be killed soon. And you have soldiers approaching on the right-hand side. Do you see those small people? They come with spears and torches, and they're soldiers. They're going to take Jesus. On the left, his friends, they're sleeping. And they're sleeping inside that womb. That's definitely an oval and an egg shape. And the angel is announcing to Jesus that this is the time. This is the time for death. El Greco painting looks swirly, says Rob. It's dynamic. Absolutely. Nothing here is sleepy. Apart from the disciples. Everything is super alive. Even the use of contrasts is very theatrical. So these kind of paintings, they're very dramatic, also because the light and the shadow are so contrasted. So the lights, they flare up, and they just jump out on the painting. It's a really, really amazing composition as well. I'm going to quickly move to the last paintings because we really must wrap up today's lesson. And I want to show you now an amazing study, a charcoal study by José Malhoa. He is the 19th century, early 20th century Portuguese artist that I've shown to you last time. I even have a video on my YouTube channel showing his painting, The Drunks. Do you remember The Drunks? So this is a charcoal drawing by José Malhoa. And again, in order to study the composition, we have to zoom out. So we are going to zoom out and look at the shapes that jump the most. There is a feeling, it's just a kind of a feeling of a certain triangular shape that is the shape of the bodies of the women, without the heads, you see? So the plates, they create the base of the triangle. Then the back on the woman on the right, connected to the head of the woman, creates the black triangle. And then it ends on the opposite side, underneath the head of the other woman. So there is, the woman on the right is definitely a big triangle when you squint. But even both women, the bodies create a bigger triangle if you remove the heads. So if you remove the heads, you're going to have a big triangle as well, just the body shapes. And notice that even the head on the woman on the left is quite triangular when you look at it from far away, of course. So write down another compositional device that José Malhoa used, because I want to know what are your thoughts about tricks of composition. The facial expressions are amazing, so let's zoom in a bit more so you can see better. This is a representation of poverty, of course. They're destitute, these women. They have almost nothing. And this feeling of poverty and of human psychology becomes almost a caricature when you compare it with the drawings in the background, where you see a little chicken and the baby profile, and it's all very childlike. You see, it's like a cartoon. It's like someone drew it in the background, but the person that drew it was not like an accomplished artist. Of course it was an accomplished artist. That's also a sketch by José Malhoa. But the juxtaposition makes this sketch very interesting. Now look at the oval circular movements of the plates that echo with the oval circular movement of the basket. And you're gonna see many more shapes. The more we look into this kind of paintings, the more we start noticing composition. So another great sketch by José Malhoa. And I want to give you the news. I want to give you the news, guys. I'm so excited. I just created 2 art academies in Portugal. One in Porto, which will be called it's called the Winter Academy at the National Museum Soares dos Reis, and the lessons start now in October. And it's a place where you can study in depth drawing and painting technique, especially from the 19th century, academic art. And in Lisbon, this is now the big news, and it relates to the drawing I've just shown you. In Lisbon, guess where I will be teaching? I will be teaching in the studio that used to belong to José Malhoa. It's amazing. He's one of my favorite painters. Do you remember when I showed you the painting of the drunks? Actually, very briefly, I'm going to quickly just show you that painting, if you don't mind, because it's such a good painting. And I love José Malhoa's painting of the drunks. So remember that I am now showing paintings that have been really badly. Let's stop this. Let's go instead to the painting of the drunks. Full on. Do you recall this painting of the drunks by José Malhoa? So it will be in his studio that I will be teaching. I mean, I'm just completely in heaven, as you can imagine, because such a great painter, and this is the place where I'll be teaching, in his old studio in Lisbon, which also used to be his house. I mean, it's a stunning, stunning, stunning artist. And I just wanted to remind you that José Malhoa also did the sketch that I'm showing now. Okay, so I guess this is all for today. I'm just going to make the last usual announcements, which I always do. And I would like you to follow me on Instagram. Not that I care, because Instagram is not that important. Yeah, Rob, I agree. The painting of the drunks is amazing. Raji, thank you for the congratulations. So guys, if you want to follow me on Instagram, which is the least important of the channels for an artist, in my opinion, follow me on @nelson.ferreira.visual.artist. And of course, much more important than Instagram is LinkedIn. And you can find me on Nelson Ferreira Visual Artist. LinkedIn is the one where I would like you to follow me. Big time. If you have a LinkedIn account, add me straight away. Just send me a message saying that you were watching the videos on YouTube. Then this is the channel where we are doing the live stream from. And finally, you can also find me on Facebook. My professional page is Nelson Ferreira Art Classes, Drawing, Painting. This is a mouthful. And Priyan, thank you so much for your congratulations. It is indeed like a dream, and it is real. It's a real dream to teach in the studio of José Malhoa. It's mind-blowing. So it's also a duty to teach 19th century technique like Portugal has never seen before. These two academies will be fully based on proper classical drawing and painting technique. Just between you guys and I, this should have been done at least 40 years ago. But well, now it's the time, okay, to bring back classical knowledge. And thank you everybody for attending another lesson. So I want to remind you, this is now the last Monday live stream for a while. Your teachers will now look after you at Dhaka University. Charukala students, it was a pleasure to give you these sessions and also the Zoom sessions while you were in need of lessons. Again, Charukala students, let's jump into the Zoom meeting and let's do it straight away, okay? I don't need a break. Let's now jump into our usual Zoom meeting. Thank you everyone. Please click now like and share this video in all your social channels and on your WhatsApp groups. Okay, let's bring these lessons to as many fine art students as we can. It's not easy to have access to this kind of knowledge. You get this kind of knowledge online sometimes, but there is also so much misinformation that you will most probably learn the wrong things. Like how you can find the Fibonacci number on the Mona Lisa, or how the Greek temples used this or that, or the Egyptian pyramid. No, okay, let's not waste time. So let's give this kind of intense, academically validated lessons to your colleagues that study fine arts. Please spread it as much as you can. Thank you so much, and I will see you now in the Zoom group. Okay, I'm so looking forward to having our discussion over Zoom. Bye for now.